That's me. Now I gotta go.
Yeah, it's fine. All right, we'll come to order. Roll call. We're all here. We rise. Say the pledge. Are you ready to go, Cheryl? I'm sorry. I pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It passes. This is the time for anybody that wants to give public comment on anything related to the policies. If anybody would like to speak about the policies. Three. Mhm. She's got it.
Oh,
I didn't know.
I just gotta stop.
Yeah, I'm Doug Morrison from Hillman. Last time we had a meeting, I voiced my opinion on wondering why the officials that we elected officials that comes to the board meetings. Like, for example, the sheriff today and Lindsay and Cheryl, they're the only three that I can think of that we elected. I don't understand, and I've asked this, why they can't speak before you guys vote on what you're, especially if they got, like, for example, the sheriff, he had a lot of things to say. You guys were making decisions about the police cars at that time. He should be able to raise his hand and comment on it before you guys vote on it. We elected him to do that. So that was my question. After the meeting, Mary come up to me and said, well, the policy of the board, you guys can't do that. So now, since it's great timing, you're doing policy changes, I feel that you need to do that. So I don't know if that's normal for me to ask you guys to make sure that it gets done. I think it's pretty important to have done. You had an official here last week for the last meeting, wanted to voice her opinion. You shut her down. She left. She's not going to come back to a meeting. I feel that we need people that's on the board to be here, that we have officials, voted for them. You don't need to scare them away or drive them off because you don't want to take their comment, especially when they have something that you're talking about that she knows about. Just like Cheryl. Cheryl's got a lot of years of experience. She's watched boards come and go for a long time. She's seen this. She knows. She can help you do your jobs better if you allow her to speak once in a while. Or Lindsay. Lindsay is a new person on the block. She's going to have to learn this. But by her not being able to speak, if she's got something to tell you guys and you're not allowing her to let it go, I think it's totally wrong. I hope that the rest of these people in this room agree with me. I don't know. I'd like to see hands up of the people in here right now that do agree with me. So that's all I ask. And I know when I come up here to speak, I don't expect an answer. I expect you to think about it. And like I told you before, I'm gonna be coming to these meetings just to keep everybody in check and want to know what's going on. I support you guys as long as I feel that you're making the right moves. If I don't think you're making the right moves, believe me, I'll speak the following week or time that I get to. And I don't like coming up here and speaking. I'm not a speaker, but I'm not gonna let stuff go either. I worked all my life. I couldn't be in these meetings because I worked. I feel I got a lot of input, but I'm not gonna give you the input. I don't want you guys to job.
Just say time.
Time.
So that's what I asked, okay? Thanks.
Agenda
What's on the
items only. That's
Wow.
not on the agenda.
Apologies.
Policy, she
Oh,
said.
policy, okay.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. I'm Kelly Carl. I'm the chair of the Montmorency County Republican Party. And just a couple thoughts as you're reviewing policies. I've worked in local government for a long time and I'm used to seeing policies and procedures. And I would encourage you that as you're updating policies, you think about the taxpayer and how it benefits the residents and the taxpayer. Being transparent, being fiscally responsible, and making sure we have checks and balances in this county, especially for the finances. Just in response to what the gentleman just said, I kind of look at this county as a little bit of an anomaly, what I'm used to in local government. Most local governments I see have an agenda that includes reports from the various departments. And it's odd to me to not have that. It's odd to me to have department heads sitting in the back of the room and voicing opinions, because the world I come from, those are discussions that are handled internally. Those are discussions that are handled while board agendas are being reviewed and discussed internally, and then reports are made during the board meeting and the public provides comment. Having department heads providing comment just is an anomaly from what I'm used to in local government and what I've seen other counties do. So I think as from the public standpoint, it would be nice to have the treasurer do a report to know what's happening with the money. It'd be nice to have the sheriff do a report and know like what's going on in the last couple of weeks or what's going on in the world of law enforcement, just to keep the public up to date. It often seems like we just have these debates between the departments and the board of commissioners. That's not valuable for the public or the residents. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Good evening. Denny Davis. I'm just a local citizen and I am the chair of the senior citizens in Atlanta. I agree with what he brought up a minute ago. It's just that the only thing I could see was when I get through reading that if you could actually have your vote after kind of you get a little input, your input, the two of them together, because a lot of times we don't get a chance to have input before. We don't know what you're going to talk about. This time we do. But anyway, I'm going to try to say it. Hopefully I can read what some of my head scratching here. So I just want to do to make it a point. I'm asking, is this an opinion that we're looking at or is it a law? They once had representatives or possibly still have that attend the meetings. We were always to have result in a report to the Board of Commissioners, helping with the checks and balances of our taxation system in the county. Millage is requested by each county affiliated business, meaning McCoa, Road Commission, etc. And added by and followed through by a tax requested through a specific millage, which to my knowledge, if I'm correct, is assigned to our clerk and then it's put on a millage through a request. As assigned to a millage, then requested the clerk and associated with that ballot. So without controls of a checks and balance, monies can be misspent or ill-spent, and then the service are reduced to the voters without a truth and or clarity that you are where, and also I'm just saying you are where the buck stops. You know, whether or not it's, I tell you, I want to go along with you. A green board is probably very difficult to make everybody happy here. Because if you had 10 years of experience, you walked in here, you'd have the knowledge of the past. That's why I've always felt that if you're ever going to run for an office, you should have been here at least a year ahead. I'll make it quick here because my 3 minutes probably up. We have asked for explanations from the McCoa board they were running in the red, like 150,000 in the red in 23, 24. And we are going up to, I think there's 90 without having the proper paperwork. And I guess I'm only asking for transparency and open discussion for clarity from our core people, so the public can figure it out. And the only way I know that is you representatives are at that board. And that's why I brought up here a few months ago that you're not getting a report from the meeting. That was here for a while. All I remember, Dell, every time he went to a meeting, you always got a report, it's a real plus. Last time I know, he gave a report. You know, if you're gonna pay somebody to go, you're gonna wanna have representation. I just feel you should have a report, because the paper, it seems like many times you get so much, it gets lost in representation. But thank you.
Perfect.
Any other comments on policy?
My comment is more of a question, I don't know. The agenda, it's not real clear, like, are we supposed to make our comments during public comment about changes and corrections we see or are requesting in the policy book? Or are we gonna be incorporated into this meeting to be able to contribute and discuss as part of your meeting? Because if not, then probably everyone's gonna need more than 3 minutes, and I expect whoever's here as department heads might want to speak to that. I already did provide some emails about that, but that's my only request, is that we be allowed to participate as part of that discussion. Or if not, let us know and we can do our 3-minute spiel.
Just to piggyback on a couple of things, as far as what Judge just said, and Mrs. Carl as well. We're looking at a 99-page document in this policy manual, and it's had a few suggested changes, revisions. This last one that came out Tuesday is different from the current existing policy in format and in some content as well. The suggestion was, or a suggestion was, again, establishing whether it be a work committee or a whatever you want to call it, whether it's a full board or it's a subcommittee of actually looking at these policies for all the reasons that the public has spoke to, ensuring that we get it right, having within the policies that we feel like we're representing the board, the elected officials, and the public through transparency for all the reasons that they're so important. I guess, again, like diligence and taking our time, this isn't anything that has to get done this minute. So I would once again request to have a subcommittee or just start scheduling work sessions with the entire board if that's the suggestion of the board. I think it'd be the fairest way to allow for dialogue on each section of the policies that we're going to be looking at. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Moving on, so the new business, I'll just start by saying that the lawyer, when he came last week, the week before, he mentioned that the problem with subcommittees are you can have, and one or two of us there, we can't make comment. Those subcommittees are not policy setting. We can't say, yes, we're going to do this, or yes, we're going to promote this. He specifically stood here and told us we cannot do that at a committee basis. So basically what we're going to do is we are going to go through the revisions. I might take limited comments, but we're not going to. So if you have a point, speak your point, keep it to a minute, what your diversion might be to what's in here. April did spend a considerable amount of time adding people's comments that sent them to her, incorporated into that. I'm just going to mention as well that the attorney made it perfectly clear that the 5 of us are supposed to be making the policies that are delegated to the finances, period. We are responsible for those. So the departments might have a suggestion, but at the end of the day, we're the ones accountable. We are the ones accountable. So I take that very seriously. And what we're doing today is going to be sent to the attorney. It is not a final product. Nobody said this was. We've known about this since January when we started this process. You have had meetings amongst yourselves because we got the minutes from those meetings, or from the one meeting. So that has been done, but next meeting, we're going to be discussing the retiree health, and so nothing's going to be sent after tonight anyway. We're just going through the processes of getting these developed, and the attorney is going to go over them. They come back to us. At that point, we review them again, and then we make decisions. That's perfectly clear. But again, the policies that are economical in nature are ours to make. He also said that the non-economics, the individual departments can set up their own. They do not have to accept what we've set up. They can do their own personnel policies. So that's where we're gonna go with that. In April, can you put that up on the board? Hopefully people can see it. And do that, is this highlighted so they could, yeah, okay, perfect.
So one of the biggest comments we had, just FYI, it was just the flow of the book. So the policy headings are all the same. We just moved it around so that they were more succinct. So we got the board of commissioner policies, then you got your operating policies, which call your financial stuff, and then it goes down into personnel. So that's a big difference, but the headings are the same. But just let me know where you want to scroll to.
So the yellow ones are ones that we've updated.
Correct.
So you can see that many were not adjusted.
There was an overwhelming amount of edits to the board rules. Everybody had a couple pages of edits to that. So, in going through that, we looked at board rules from another county that uses it, and one of the comments the attorney made was about not rewriting OMA in your procedures, just saying that you're gonna follow it. So that's kind of what these ones more represent, plus the notes everybody had about making updates about it.
OMA is the Open Meetings Act.
Yeah.
So instead of putting everything in there, we just are referencing it.
Just let me know.
Yeah.
So these are new, compared to what we had. It's a lot less information than it was before.
How would you like this to address? If you had a comment in a section? Yes, address it to you. Okay, so section 1.4 special meetings, I have a question because it cites MCLA 4610, but 4610 actually states that the request goes to the clerk, but then it says the request is sent to the controller for scheduling. So I think to comply with MCLA 4610, my understanding is the request has to go to the clerk. So maybe it goes to both.
You can do that.
But I
Well,
think-
it says here, request is sent to the controller for scheduling with clerk and board.
But MCLA 4610 says that
The request
the
shall be in
request
writing
shall
and
be in
addressed to
writing,
the
shall be
clerk.
addressed to the county clerk and shall specify the time, date, place, and purpose of the meeting. So I just don't want to contradict a statute. So I think we can, if you want them to go to both, I think they can, but I think that they need to go to the clerk for MCLA 46.
What would that not be when it says it's requesting is sent to the controller for scheduling?
And that's one of those things the attorney,
All it should be the clerk first and then the controller from Cheryl.
that's one of the things the attorney could.
Yeah.
We could ask the attorney to get the proper wording for it.
Okay, that'd be good.
And then section 1.5, I just had a question there because it says emergency meetings of the board may be held only with approval of 2/3 of the members of the board and only when delay would threaten severe and imminent danger. But it's not clear to me, how do you call for that emergency? How do you call for that vote to have an emergency meeting? If it says an emergency meeting can be held with approval of 2/3 of the members in an emergency, do you need something in there that says how we get that vote to call it emergency meeting? Or how that's done typically?
Contact clerk, controller, or the chair of the board.
Or could the chair do like an email poll in that kind of instance? So I just didn't know how that would be done to get that 2/3. Yeah, so if we could ask the attorney on that.
On the roll call, I was thinking, never mind, I think we get back on that later. That was about, there was a big section in there about that it had to be in a specific order. Did we
Yeah,
just
we took
leave that?
that, we took that
Okay,
out
we
of
just
there.
left that to the clerk. Okay.
Cheryl handles her roll call
Yeah,
procedure, so we took
right.
it right out.
Okay, good.
Okay, yeah, I was.
That was good.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just before you get, just on, in it, for 1.2, the regularly monthly meetings. Again, just for the sanctity of not having to revise policy every year. I don't know, it might be beneficial to just identify that, the Board of Commissioners shall meet on dates determined at each
Yeah.
year's organizational meeting, rather than, I know there's a couple spots in here where it's
1.7.
specifying 1.7, what I think was another one, where it's specifying like the second and fourth Thursday, and I think it might even identify a time. So otherwise, next year, if we hold meetings at different times, technically you're gonna have to keep updating your policy book.
One of the parts of organization meeting though is approving the board rules, so that would be updated every year if we did do that.
Well, but you're gonna have to do edits every year. I mean, you could, as long as the policy book still is intact, you could just say, yeah, as is and good to go. Otherwise, every year you're gonna have to potentially change dates and times, things like that. It's just a suggestion.
Raising someone like to be determined on a yearly basis.
Organizational meeting.
Anybody have anything?
On the section 2.2 roll call votes, I know that there was some kind of, it says a roll call vote on $5,000 every year, and I don't know if that was in the previous policy or not, or if that's just like a standard threshold, or like where that number.
It would be standard, but we can take that out and just make any financial, because we kind of made it a rule with us that anything financial, we
That's
do a
what I
roll
thought
call.
we were
So
doing,
we
so
can
I just
update that.
didn't, yeah, I didn't know if that was, if that came from a recommendation somewhere.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm just gonna add another comment if I can. I know we're reviewing a revision, but it's not what was voted in as the policies. Current policy manual, so you're working on a revision to a policy manual that's not even approved by the county yet. Right?
Right.
And
because
for
that's
me,
the
it's
point of
confusing
going
because I
through.
didn't get a chance to see that, so and I already entered my argument about that, but for me, that makes it really hard to follow because we're all working off of the other policy book, so I just putting it on for the record. That is hard for me today.
2 days we had to look it over isn't quite enough when you work at a day job too. Pretty hard to get through all that.
Well, we're just moving this along. We're not voting that this is the,
Be nice in the future if we had a little more time.
well, we didn't get the revisions till late either, all
But
this.
I'm just saying, I don't know why we're working on one that's revised when we have one that's in place.
I don't know why we're working off of this one. What's the difference between this one and the one that all the elected officials gave you 2 weeks ago? If we're moving on, I have a comment under 3.12 G, I'm sorry, E. There's not an asterisk next to it, and if that's a true statement, I'd like to see where it came from.
Where?
E. 3.12 E.
I actually flagged that one too, but more because I didn't know what that meant, so I just
Little
didn't
bit.
understand what that was saying. Like ceremonial capacities, I just don't understand it, so it was more for clarification.
How do we do it?
Yeah.
We're done it. I don't know.
Is that something we need in there, or do we wanna?
I don't know. Do we need-
Ceremonial, I don't think there's really
That's why I say I don't know that it's really a bigger.
any legal matters to worry about.
Yeah.
there.
I'm making it for a quick pass.
Sure. We strike.
Shouldn't have it.
Also, under 3.12G, there is an asterisk next to it, and again, it's just a question. I've never heard of that before, so if the attorney could provide statute.
It's been in the old policy. That was in the old policy. I don't know what that pertains to, but
I don't know what it pertains to either, Lindsay, but I did find it in 46.3, parents 5.
46.
so we could ask what that-
46.3, parents
what
5.
that
It wasn't
pertains to.
statute. I don't know what it means, but
Okay, as long as it's a statute on it, that's fine.
I had a question on 3.12. The chair of the board will be the first step in the chain of command. The board chair is responsible for leading the board and serving as the direct supervisor of the controller. So the controller's job description lists the board of commissioners as supervisor. So I think, I'm not sure with the controller situation, how that's typically handled. If it's, I was always under the understanding the full board is supervisor of the controller position, not any single individual. And that's how the job description reads as well, so maybe just some clarification, or maybe, I don't know if it was established in the original resolution when the resolution was created or not.
well, I think the
There's
point
some
is,
conflicting.
well, I suppose because it's a day-to-day process. I don't know. So, how it can be- I don't know. Good
Yeah, I
question.
mean, maybe like you're the first point of the chair
Yeah.
is the first point of contact.
That might be it.
I think is maybe makes more sense. Because I actually think it was in the math training, maybe that it was stated, maybe you might remember this, or Michelle or Lloyd, but I think they stated, like, as an individual, like, you, one person, can't go to like an administrator or controller. It's as a board that you're working together on that, but maybe, it can be varied by county, so.
Yeah, ask the lawyer. That's a contact or-
Yeah, so maybe it potentially would be.
Clarification, just because in the job description, it says Board of Commissioners, and that's usually as a vote when you're asked to do something, but on a day-to-day basis, since you're only meeting every 2 weeks, we need clarification on who would have to do that if there's other things that come up.
Yeah, I think it'd be maybe the controller's point of contact is
Yeah.
the chair, not direct supervisor. I think that's just the difference there.
It'd be cumbersome to try to deal with 5 people at one time on one issue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, I understand that. I think it's just a language thing.
Madam Chair, before you get too far, can I ask a question on 2.5? Under section 2, the voting, you have under 2.5, you get reconsideration or rescission of a vote. The very last sentence references some Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure. It cites a certain page. I have no idea what that is. I kind of looked at it, but it had something to do with this. It's a manual for the state legislators. I guess I'm not sure why that's there in that reference, maybe something in Robert's rules, because that's what it's talking about, is
Yeah.
reconsidering or rescission of a vote.
That was something I was gonna ask
So
Rachel
that-
to look into.
And I think that was one of my suggestions, to kind of keep your voting, maybe just some simple ones, how to, make a motion, how to table a motion, how to do a motion to reconsider, or that type of thing. So I don't know, I'm guessing that's possibly what that paragraph has to do with, but what that manual is, I have no idea. Like I said, I looked it up, and it's a manual for state legislators, so I don't know why it wouldn't be something having to
Okay,
do with
we can
Robert's
check it out.
rules.
we can check it out.
On the voting section, it doesn't address where a commissioner is absent and they're appearing by Zoom, and whether or not,
I think we
OMA
do.
states that's not possible.
Yeah.
okay,
do
with
that anymore.
The
MCL,
lawyer
Yeah.
talked about.
You have to check on our
Open
present.
Meetings Act. we can't do
OMA
that
does not
anymore.
allow any voting when you're not present.
okay.
Yeah, they can't even participate online unless you're allowing all online participation. If a board member
The
was,
exception was if they're the
In the service.
service
Service.
on,
An ADA.
Or ADA
Yeah.
accommodation.
that's all OMA rule.
Okay, thank you.
My next question is in section 3.5 under general rules, number 2. If anyone has anything before that, feel free to jump in.
3.5.
Oh, I have a whole section on the quick one I want to talk about, so at some point.
Well, I get to get there. So 2, no, I'm sorry, not 2, step part 3, under general rules, part 3, committee minutes and written records. I just wanted clarification here because it talks about keeping minutes of the meetings, you know, and what that needs to include. I thought the attorney said that the minutes were the responsibility of the clerk, even in all of the committees, and needed like somebody deputized or something. So it doesn't state in here who's taking the minutes, and I don't recall.
That was something that he did state, that if you're gonna have a committee meeting and you're gonna have notes, then they need to become part of the record as well. So that was the conversation, and I believe Cheryl was reaching out to Matt to ask more clarity on that too.
I did, I have sent him an email and he responded with another question, so I responded back, and that's kind of where it's been left at the moment. I have a feeling because the FPS specifically, that is a meeting where you guys have it posted and you actually have an agenda. So therefore I have a feeling that he's gonna say that, yes, that someone should be from my office doing that. And that's, you know, and that's fine. If that's what he's suggesting we do, then we will.
Or it can.
But it'll be done by myself or somebody from my
It
office.
can be, yeah, it can be anybody deputized. So like he said, if you chose to have Dawn to continue doing it, then they just have to be given to Cheryl to put part of the record. And
No,
she
I
could
would have to
approve that.
deputize her. That's not-
Okay,
And so the person responsible for the preparation could be the clerk or her designee that's been.
Yeah.
correct.
Yep, and then he mentioned that in the board training.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. That's why that one caught my attention.
Yep.
So if we can, I guess, keep working through that. I don't want to take over, so if anybody else wants to chime in, please feel free, but I had a comment on section 3.6 as well. I struggle with the legal counsel one because on one hand, I think that certain people should be able to reach out to legal counsel to some extent, but I also understand that can really easily get out of control from a budget perspective, so I'm trying to think through a happy medium, and in this case, I'm gonna go piece by piece, so let's talk about the board first. So if a county commissioner wants to contact legal counsel, this is saying full board approval is required, which I don't think, to me, that's a bit extreme. But then the county controller can basically contact legal counsel as much as necessary, which I think is a little extreme in the opposite direction. I think that any requested legal opinions should have full board approval. But I feel like there can be some happy medium with, you know, a county board member, maybe it's funneled through the chair, not to put more work on the chair, but maybe it's like if one person has, they can go to the chair and the chair can help decide the right path forward or something like that, but I can see definitely for a legal opinion, but for legal counsel on something that maybe is just like a question and getting full board approval, to me seems excessive. And then I think the controller should be limited to the day-to-day operations is fine, but specifying like a legal opinion, again, to me, that seems like more effort that should require board approval. And then I do want to, because I know it's been commented, I would like consideration for elected officials to have the ability to contact legal counsel within reason, and perhaps there can be some caveat of like, if, you know, somehow knowing, like if it's becoming excessive on the budget or something, or somebody's using it excessively. I don't know how to do that. I just think that, there should be some ability on a basic level to do that. And then I mean, maybe this is excessive and I'd look to the attorney on this piece. I know I'm saying a lot here, but potentially on any attorney communications that like the chair or vice chair, maybe both, or just the chair, are just copied, because to me, if you're contacting legal counsel, it's because of something that could potentially be a liability thing, and that's why you're contacting them. So it's something like the board, I think, should be aware of communications that are going on. So I know I said a lot, but those are my thoughts on the legal counsel
Are you on
section.
3.13?
I'm on 3.6.
So this is just the board rules section where it says that
Okay.
they would go through a
all
full
right,
board to
because
contact.
that's-
Then there's an actual policy for like electeds and everybody to contact.
Okay, well, I didn't get, okay, I didn't get through everything, so.
Yeah, that's the 313.
Is it really necessary to get the full board's approval for legal matters?
313, is that
2 out of
separate?
3
That's
requests.
that's the county council use that he gave us.
Then separate, okay. Sorry, I didn't get through everything yet, so I'm just trying to, I'll see if I can.
I just don't see a need for 3.6 to even be in there when we have a complete separate
Yeah, I guess maybe that's where I get confused. Okay, attorney advice policy.
policy, proposed policy about it.
Or we can reference the other policy. Do that for him.
As long as it falls in the same lines, it wouldn't be any more.
Right.
It's just, these are just your board rules.
Okay, so I just said a whole bunch of stuff for no reason.
I'm sorry.
What?
Well, I was looking.
No, I'm sorry.
I was looking.
No,
I
it's
was
fine.
thinking why I'm.
Okay, this makes sense. Okay. Yeah,
Is that in this?
so this would be added in.
It's in that
there.
3.13.
It was something we don't have already, but it was proposed and
Well, it's-
the attorney provided.
That was what the attorney provided to you.
that's a separate, it's not in there.
in this packet.
We can get down there, further down, if you want to finish with the board rules.
Okay, yeah, let's get the board rules down. Anything else on the board rules?
3.2, I'm sorry, 3.32 G. That's just new. I don't know. It's under Cheryl's domain there, but it says to have updated copies of these rules available for reference by the general public during regular office hours and at all meetings of the board. So I don't know if that's saying that Cheryl or whoever's taking minutes is going to have board rule copies available for the public at every meeting, or if that's something that the controller's office would take care of.
Well, we had talked about once we get them, we can just leave them here on the board. On the
As the
table
clerk of the
for
board,
access.
she has an updated copy always,
Right.
because we approve it at organization.
That was my question. I mean, other than I have them in my policy book, just like you all do, and I don't know if, if you plan on putting them online or whatever, but I don't carry a copy around with me. I mean, if you want to have some on the table, I guess that's one thing, but
We can post.
my other comment to that section, number 3, under 3.33 in the absence, that absolutely not. There's going to be no majority vote by the commissioners for somebody else to take minutes on my behalf. I will have somebody here or I will be here or one of my staff will be here. Under 4.6, MCL 4.6, county clerk's duty, not a board vote.
Sorry, what section?
3.3.
3.3 on page 7, number 3, where it says absence.
Oh, I see, okay.
It already mentions in here about you being able to deputize somebody else, right?
Correct.
Okay, anything else?
So is that going to be removed?
Is there
Yeah,
a
we-
possibility of a outside chance that Cheryl couldn't be here and her appointee gets in a car accident during lunch or something?
Well, I suppose, but
Yeah,
we could
a
ask them.
third person.
we can ask them. That's why this is going to the lawyers.
Mhm.
This isn't all.
Don't have all the answers, yeah.
Anything else in the board rules?
Section 3.7. Audit services. Maybe this is covered elsewhere and I didn't get to it, but it says the county board authorizes the controller and treasurer to utilize the services of the auditor as required by daily operation of county business. And it says the controller will be the point of contact for inquiries, but if the controller and treasurer are authorized to utilize the services of the auditor,
Probably because of the money that's related to it when you call the auditor, like when you call the lawyer.
Yeah, but
It's
if the
gonna
controller
generate
and, if
fees.
this is saying the controller and treasurer basically have the authority to work with the auditor, then the controller or the.
The auditor
treasurer could
always
do it.
requests one point of contact, and that's our office. So when they start the audit, everything comes to me, and then I schedule it out and share everything. But if
Okay.
there was a question, like the treasurer needed it, you would contact the auditor, so, because she's dealing with money coming in, which that does come up in sometime during business, if there's something that comes up that we gotta make sure the auditing procedures, we're hitting it. You know, she lets me know, we let the auditor know, and she answers it. The auditor will always CC me back if there's a question that goes that way. That's just
Okay.
how their point of contact works with the auditing firm.
That's fine if you want, it just was confusing, because the way it said county and treasurer can use the services, but then, I mean, the controller and the treasurer, but then. it seemed like- So the treasurer would have to go through.
Could you scroll down once just to see if that's affecting what I'm here to talk about, above 3.6, 3.5, something right there.
That's what we're getting clarification on.
Getting, mean you don't have it yet?
We have clarification. Attorney letter came in from the COA, which you're gonna ask about, which I just got this afternoon.
Which is
It's
on
on next week's
meeting.
agenda. We'll have
Next.
the attorney.
The 27th.
Okay,
I have a comment on section 4.1. This states at the bottom, it says public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. The time may be extended by the board chair. But then I think in 6.3, I noted in 6.3, it says that there are no exceptions. So I think just for consistency's sake, maybe we just only state that in one place. Um, 6.3. Yep. 6.3 on page 10. 6.3, it says, 3C, so the speaker is limited to 3 minutes with no exceptions. We could just strike out with
No exception, yeah,
exceptions.
yeah.
Just
Yeah,
to
take
make it
that out.
simpler, yeah.
We get mixed up.
Page
Yeah,
10.
because it said it's.
It's up to your discretion. If you want to allow people.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I think Philip would have mentioned that too.
That's how the, yeah.
Section 4.4, it says upon the completion of the proposed agenda, the controller shall immediately distribute copies of the proposed agenda with copies of reports, which I think is an impossible task for the controller to immediately. So maybe we can just strike the word immediately.
What was the decision on the 6.3C? Sorry, I was trying to find it in there.
6.3C, were to strike.
want to
with
strike the no exceptions,
exceptions.
right?
With no exceptions.
Yeah.
Just get rid of that part, okay.
So my suggestion in 4.4 is maybe just striking the word immediately, or I don't know if there's a better word, but
What one are you on?
section 4.4, page 9.
The bottom of 9.
It says upon the completion of the proposed agenda, the county controller shall immediately distribute copies of the proposed agenda together with copies of reports, supporting information, documentation that relates to the matters of business, which I know the agenda comes out and sometimes then there's some effort to compile supporting information. So that's why we're just suggesting.
I'll get rid of that. Yep.
I also had a comment on that it doesn't say who the controller's office has to distribute it to.
So there's,
They want to take it.
You might want to note that.
I actually.
that goes to the
Commissioners
to the
shall-
board, the
Yeah, it goes
commissioners.
to the
Receive
commissioners.
this from Tuesday,
The
Monday,
board
and
and-
close of business, proceed with the regular meeting.
Yeah.
At the bottom.
I would like to suggest to distribute it to the board and the clerk. I believe the clerk has asked for the sake of doing minutes to be copied on information that might help with the documentation of the minutes.
I have a comment on 4.2. 4.2, it says the controller, after first reviewing pending matters and requests and subject to approval by the chairperson, shall prepare the proposed agenda of business. I don't know how or why the chairperson can approve what goes on the agenda.
So it's always been.
Yeah.
Maybe I get what you're saying. 'Cause
I
you
don't know that it's
formally
ever been an
approve
issue,
An
but
agenda, are you saying because you don't formally approve an agenda until you're at the meeting? Is that why you're
right,
saying?
well, it just, maybe it's just the way that it's worded, that it looks like it's being screened before anything gets on the agenda, but
Well, it is because the
Yeah.
agenda is developed by,
What's turned in.
yeah, it starts
Yeah.
with the FPS. That was our
Prior
whole-
meeting,
That was our
all
whole
that.
chain of command.
but my question is, what if a member from the public wanted to put something on the agenda?
They requested
It's
to our
time
office like
limit.
we always
Yeah,
do.
there's a request.
And then you can still say no, so it won't be heard in a public meeting.
Depends where
They can
requested it.
they can provide presentations. They can, that's.
We've never
well,
not
they've
put a
always been-
request on the
yeah, they've
agenda.
always been able to do that. They just request like everyone else.
And then also, yeah, 4.2, I know we've talked about this a couple times, but it is really, really hard for us to, and I'm sure for board members too, to have a BOC meeting on a Thursday, have Friday, and then have anything that we want on the agenda for that next Monday. So I'm wondering if we can move that to 3 PM on Wednesday. That still gives April's office all day Thursday to maybe put together the agenda. It's just
The
really.
agenda has to be posted by 10 AM on Thursday, so.
Yeah. That was it's gotta be out a week before. It was a short turnaround. Because that gives
Something in between
24
on
hours.
Tuesday or something after.
And if I'm gonna get packets to the board on Friday, it doesn't give me a whole lot of time to get all the information
And the
together.
reason why we did it is so that the public could at least have one day where they could come to a meeting. If,
Gotta be meant to be
one's
open
during,
meetings
like,
Act
one's
the
during.
week
the-
before.
No, I'm talking
No.
about information. So
Oh,
if someone
okay.
wants to put something on the agenda right now, we have to have it to the controller's office by Monday at 10 AM.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 3 PM. It says, I was told 10 AM. But, so if we have a BOC meeting on Thursday, we have Friday and maybe Monday to, what if we have something on the agenda? Yeah.
It just seems like a really short turnaround time. I don't understand why Wednesday wasn't, it's been Wednesday now for how long?
Well, because when we first, started, people were concerned that they weren't getting the packet information from us, from the commissioners, that we weren't getting it in time to be able to review it thoroughly. And so we backed it up.
So a week and a half isn't enough to, or a week isn't enough time?
Well, because it has to go out
I had,
on Friday.
if we don't get things till Wednesday and the agenda gets posted on Thursday morning, we have to have the packets to the board by Friday. It doesn't give us enough time to put the packets and everything together. And then if we wait further, then they have gonna be no time to review information before a board meeting, which is why we moved back. If it doesn't meet the deadline, it'd go on the following agenda.
Tuesday, okay, instead of what, Wednesday gives us
Or
a
Monday.
day.
That's what I was thinking. Just like
Okay,
compromise.
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 Do it Tuesday.
I see both sides of the comments, and so I understand the challenges.
Yeah, we keep going back and forth.
Are we changing it to Tuesday?
Well, it's not hard and fast rule, but is it being suggested, so, I don't know if that's something we wanna
Well, it would need to
shoot
be
for to be
early.
in the final manual, or?
It would need to be early, but that's kind of our timeline.
Like maybe noon on Tuesday or something, so just the next one.
Noon on Tuesday.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah. No later than noon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think there's a typo under 4.3 agenda for special meetings. Because this is whenever the board is called into session pursuant to rule 2.8, I think it's meant to be 1.8. Change in schedule.
Yep. Yeah.
Anything else?
Going back to that, just the agenda in general, I like Ms. Carl's statement. Maybe that would resolve some of the issues of department heads trying to get on the agenda last minute. Is if they're already on the agenda as being able to give a department report, maybe not everyone would want to give one every time. But if they're on the agenda and are, then they would be already.
Well, we've asked them to be on, and some do not want to give a written report. So,
Right, I'm saying they don't necessarily have to, but if
well, we've been
there's a
putting on,
section for department reports. I'm
right,
like,
what we've been doing is we've been putting them on when they've asked to be on. Is what
And
we've
I'm
done.
just saying, if they have to ask so far in advance, they might not know they need to be on, and if it's just one of your agenda items and someone wants to report, they report. If they don't, they don't.
But then you're coming back to the point of not having information ahead of time if you're gonna, asking for a decision to be made. And then there's no transparency to the public if it's a decision. Like, that's why we were asking for material ahead of time.
Well, that goes to my request that the agenda actually set forth what your agenda items are in more detail, because I never know what you're gonna be voting on. Because a lot of times it comes out of the controller's report, but it's not specific on the agenda, so we don't have the transparency coming to the meeting sometimes what you're voting on, so it happens sometimes that way. Or it can be, okay, thank you for that report, we can't vote on that today, we'll set it for the next agenda.
It's tough for the department heads to know what they want to comment on. If during, somebody makes a motion and during the discussion, something comes up they want to comment on that.
Right, it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen sometimes.
Well, don't we have right now, it's just that it does say department report, so.
Right.
I mean, if you, I don't want to come up to the board every 2 weeks, go, yeah, we took in, 20 payments for restitution, and, if I got something important to say, I'm gonna say it, or just to give an update. I mean, to me, I'm more comfortable maybe doing something like that, and if you actually had something though that you needed to schedule, then that would be something totally different.
That's good. I just, sometimes I just like to fill you in on what's going on at the courts, not like that it needs action.
But you could.
But I always wait till like the 3-minute period, but if I can jump up during the department reports, I'll do that.
That's what I
Not
did a couple weeks
mandatory.
ago.
You can do it if you want to, and you don't have to. If there's nothing. to
Okay,
report.
Right.
I didn't know that it was open for that. Sometimes I like to tell you what's happening.
As long as no decisions are being made. Like, it would be transparent, it's just public information at that point,
Yeah.
right?
Anything else?
Would that be possible to have an agenda or something put on the agenda at that time if they have something they want done during their department report? Is that not the proper way of doing it?
Well, it's nice to know ahead of time, because otherwise then it comes back to their point that they don't know that somebody's on it. That was the complaint that we got when we were adding items to the agenda, at the meeting. We were getting the complaints that we weren't transparent because nobody knew things were being added. So that's where we got back to, okay, let's schedule this, tell us by such and such a date so we can include it into the agenda.
I
So
guess
it's
what
kind
I
of the
was saying is
circular-
if they're doing their department report, they're gonna say, I would like to request this be added in the next agenda next week, their
Right.
meeting's
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah, they can be, any department head can ask to, give a report.
Mary, my comment was more what Cheryl was talking about. Like, you have like department reports, maybe it's monthly, just to give the public an update on what's going on in the department or what's been going on. But if it's an agenda item, it seems like it would follow the other process.
Right.
Right.
Where you submit it for an agenda item and then the board has action. The board has to take action, then that's the separate process.
I agree, like an action item section.
Exactly.
Yeah, department reports, you can leave the agenda item, just department reports, and then call for any departments that have a quick update to give on their department, as long as it's not doing action. I guess that's what you could just leave it that way if you want. Because right now we just have it as whoever's has an update to
Requested.
give
Yeah.
and then standing committees.
I have a question, I'm sorry, I have a question on 6.1 and 6.2. It seems a little excessive. I understand, that member addressed to commission that it's an attempt to control people from getting up and talking. But a full consent of the majority of the board before one person speaks.
If I can, so I had a comment on 6.1, more of like logistically, what would that look like? Because, you know, as chair, I'm thinking if I'm chairing the meeting and I have to get, like, at what point or how are you seeking the majority of the board to allow someone to speak? Logistically, I'm not sure what that would look like, so. I was a little concerned with the language of putting that on the board on how that's gonna play out.
If I may. From the other counties that I have worked in and worked with, a lot of times what they'll do is if you want to address, the chair will just look at the other board members and go, do you have any objection to them speaking? And then just go forward as a matter of
And
courtesy.
that makes total sense, because then it would maintain order, and I
Yeah.
understand the concept behind it. I totally agree with it, but that was kind of my question, like, is the chair gonna say, do I have a vote? Like, are you gonna go head by head for every person that wants to speak? I just can see it maybe doubling the time of our meetings, so I don't know. If it's just a simple nod, cool.
Section 7.
Just wait.
Oh, sorry. I thought I moved on. Okay.
We didn't, you're moving on. I'm sorry, it's getting long, right? County officials who may speak with the consent of the majority of the board members. I don't know why we can't do that. Is that okay to add it?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I thought. we had 7.22. I highlighted a sentence that it just wasn't clear to me, so I'm just gonna read this. Motion to clear the floor. If in the judgment of the chair, procedural matters have become confused, the chair may request a motion to clear the floor. I got that. This next sentence, I just got confused over it. Such motion, if made, shall take precedence over all other motions and shall not be subject to debate of if carried to a motion to reconsider.
I think it's supposed to be or, but I don't know.
But then it says, but it's referring to, if it says if carried, but then the next sentence says the motion to clear the floor if carried shall clear the floor completely.
Maybe one of those situations where when we end up amending a motion a million times.
Yeah.
I understand the purpose
So,
of this,
but
the
how would it-
wording of the second sentence.
Can have the attorney review it.
Like, do we need that second sentence? even?
Yeah.
Or just saying like it shall not be subject to debate, period.
Well,
I don't know.
let's
what
have the
it-
attorney review.
Okay, yeah, I do.
Oh, yeah, I think that of is supposed to be or.
It's-
And no
it still
comma
doesn't
after
make sense
carried.
to me.
Right. Let's have them review that just with correct wording. on that.
Yep, okay.
What kind of vote does that take to implement that? Does it need
It
a
looks like it's just a simple.
simple majority
Just,
or
yeah, it's just a motion. to clear
two-third
the floor.
majority?
No, it just says a motion. So that would be a. Majority.
No. What's the difference between general public comment under 3 on page 10 versus 11's number 5, rules governing public comment? Seems kind of redundant.
Just getting more detail.
Does this include the, for people that want a board presentation? This is that, correct?
I was just looking at 10, on page 10, they have number 3, general public comment, A through H, but then on page 11, they've got a whole section under number 5, 11 things under 5 that talks again about public comment.
Redundant.
It's just giving more detail and rules on how to deal with like disorderly, which we've had the issue before, so.
So find just more detail.
Sorry if you're going into full detail on
Sleep.
page 11.5.
I also have a comment on 3D while we're ready.
Just leave the more, just leave the more,
I can ask them to review that too.
yeah, I was gonna say maybe just move the longer version in there.
That's all public comment.
Okay, because if we do that, then that eliminates the other exception to that. Anything else? Lindsay?
3D, it just needs to be clarified because we do allow 2 public comments. That I understand, there needs to be something notated in there that obviously the first one is agenda items only. But the second public comment, we cannot tell them that it has to be business that's within the jurisdiction of the board. Someone could come into a public comment on how beautiful the clouds are and we have to let them talk for 3-minute timeline. So I just think it needs to be reworded.
That's not true, actually. I think that would be double check on that because I think he just said something in the training. That has to be things that are within your guys' scope.
No, he said be prepared to talk about the clouds. If somebody decides they want to talk about the clouds.
Second round of public comment.
So we're gonna have to review that and then we still have to fix that.
Yeah, I do have, the first one you can say agenda only, but then the second one, whatever.
Yeah, because we allow 2. I just think it needs
Yeah, I
to
thought the
specify
second
both.
one was whatever. First one
Anything else?
was agenda.
We're moving on to 2.2 per diems under definitions. 1F, including Zoom meetings should not be allowed. Oh, I'm sorry, 2.2 per diems.
Got it.
It says including Zoom meetings that shouldn't be allowed. Board of Commissioners should not get paid a per diem for attending a Zoom meeting because they're not a voting member. At that point, you're a member of the public only. So you shouldn't get paid.
That's not true though in subcommittee meetings because like the coalition with the jail and that they do Zoom meetings, their own bylaws allow Zoom meetings, 'cause
Right.
it falls under a different category. You could be in those meetings for 3 hours, you get a per diem for attending, you just wouldn't obviously have mileage reimbursement, so that's.
Board of Commissioners.
The Board of Commissioners, you can't do it, it's a totally different thing, but there are subcommittees that they are voting members of that they do allow it, it's in their bylaws.
Then maybe it should say
So
subcommittee.
just
'cause it
specify
says
them.
any-
Yeah, I'm thinking just for BOC meetings.
Yeah, we don't allow participation by board members for Zoom. OMA states that.
They can watch the Zoom meeting, but they can't comment, right?
Right.
Okay, moving on.
So is that just gonna be clarified as determined by that commission or committee's bylaws?
So subcommittee.
We could maybe add that, have them look at that for the subcommittee portion of that. There's something else that we do that too. I think we did that for the opioid thing when we did it
Yes.
with Mac.
Yep. That is one that we do.
Okay, anything else?
Well, was there something that should be clarified under the exception, under number 2, where it talks about individuals appointed to a committee, commission, or board, and it talks about not being able to receive a per diem. We just had some attorney.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Matt to
Opinion on
add
that?
something on that with the MMP stuff that's going on.
Okay.
Anything else?
Just at the end of that. We have the two,
Give me the page number.
section 2.6, page 20. The revisions to the handbook. Maybe it stated somewhere else, like I said, I wasn't able to get through everything, but I was just going to suggest an addition at the end of paragraph 2.6 that changes shall require approval of the county board of commissioners. Maybe it was stated elsewhere, but I just wanted it to be clear.
Where are you at?
I'm on
Page 20.
page 20, section 2.6, suggesting the addition of a sentence at the end of the paragraph that says changes shall require approval of the county board of commissioners.
Need to be something else added to that, if allowing departments to put their own.
That's something else that Matt said, or he said he was gonna put when he reviewed that, the caveat between union, non-union, elected, and like how it binds to them. That's something that.
Would that be reviewed under that section?
Yeah.
Probably?
Yeah.
Okay, so there we go. That answers that.
Right, well, we're still on board policy. Like 3, it says elected official, conflict of interest, but this is really just on the board, so maybe it should be commissioner conflict of interest or board conflict of interest, but this is in a section on elected officials, so I'm not sure if that belongs under the board policy.
That it should
It
just
says
be
by
a
county
separate one. It's a separate conflict of interest policy. If it's a general policy for board and elected officials and public officers, which all 3 of those are noted throughout this entire section, it looks like it's a copy and paste from our current policy. That's fine. It just got stuck in with board rules and it doesn't pertain just to the board. It's actually talking about 3 different.
Or just procedural.
Right.
You can refer back to it. Okay, anything else? The general operating policy,
What page are we on now?
21.
Okay.
That is the administration.
I
And
have
that's
some,
for our RFP.
before we move on to 3, 2.5, the ethics code, just the very last paragraph it talks about discipline and termination of employment. And again, it wouldn't apply to elected officials and their.
Right, we've already mentioned that it's gonna be.
Yeah.
That's gonna be,
No, it doesn't get crossed off. That's our standard, but you guys, as elected.
but you can do something
then
different in
we-
yours.
Oh, I remember Matt saying, that. Okay, all right, thank you.
So 21, the changes, the policy will be administered by the controller and finance committee. All requests of proposals and requests for qualifications are administered through the controller. Purchasing policy, and then on the back, it's the purchase order numbers. Just adding that.
Question on page 23. Where it mentions routine purchase, items valued under 501 are considered routine purchases. There's no bidding requirements. I I just thinking in numbers, and the PO requirement was, I think the threshold was like 1,000, so does it make sense to align with that, or maybe the 501 is fine? I'm just trying to think of like, is 501 reasonable for just considered like a routine purchase? I don't know what the typical routine purchases are, but with the PO policy being 1,000, does it make sense that it's
A whole under 500.
Well, the informal bidding is between 501 and
501 to
5,000.
5,000?
Yeah.
So instead, that would bump the informal bidding to like 1,000 to 5,000.
Right.
But I don't. Again, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know.
That's not that old. We went through this, maybe this was one we added like about
This is like
a
a
year or two
newer
ago.
thing,
Yeah,
yeah.
this was
Yeah.
relatively newer that we put those designations when we talked about petty cash and all those kind of things. And then there's the county council policy on 313. That's the one that Matt gave.
You missed credit cards.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So you're not gonna look at raising that routine purchase back up to 1,000? 1,000 for a lot of years, 500 just seems awfully low. More.
All that part is it's not the purchases in that over 1,000, it's the routine. So like if you're looking for bids, informal quotes basically from other competitors, and that's within your office, it's not. Oh, I swear.
Up to 500, they can do it on their own, but between 5 and 1,000, that's when you want more than one quote.
The 5 to 5,000.
Right.
Is when you're gonna get
Yeah.
special bidding in.
So it's not that you're not. Okay, what page is that? Credit card.
33, bottom 33.
Oh,
I was actually really right on page 27. I just had a question on the sole source procurement. So it says a contract may be awarded without competition when the controller determines in writing after conducting a good faith review of available sources that there's only one appropriate source. And I didn't know if it makes sense, and I'm going based on my experience working in a county in the past. Like the electives or department heads were involved in that process because of their experience and knowledge of the issue to say, hey, this is like the only option really, so it makes sense to sole source for these reasons. Or I mean, maybe that's what that means is the controller's good faith effort is that you're working with the department on that, but I just know when I worked at the drain office, we had instances where we had a form we'd have to fill out, like this is a sole source for these reasons. This is why, they're like a specialty type of work or whatever. So I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if it makes sense or not that there would ever be a department head or an elected that would want to request a sole source and provide information to the controller rather than the controller determining on that person's own.
do you have a controller or an administrator?
We had an administrator.
I'm wondering if that's the difference.
It could be. I'm just throwing it out there because
So I'll
I don't know if that
give this
puts
to
a
be
lot
for
on the controller.
example, I guess. Like, okay, I'll use the prosecutor's office, like. I worked with prosecutors to come up with a contract. They looked at other options that they could go through and they ended up going with just Carpel because it was the best option. So, whatever department's requesting it, and like Cheryl uses election source for all of our elections, like that's just.
Okay. It just seemed like
They
it was
would
putting
bring-
a lot on the controller, but it sounds like your process is working with the department. So. What, on the credit card, are we looking at the separate policies? What we're, But there was a separate policy.
We had one, we had a sample. We had gotten one of these in email. Are you talking that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was,
We had submitted one, all of, everybody that attended that meeting, everybody is, and the departments are completely against the credit card policy, the current one. And the fact that I see that April's edits here, she wants to put it in her office, I can't agree more. It's an accounts payable office, that's where it should be, it should not be going to the treasurer's office anyways. But the fact that we have one credit card for this county that cannot be checked out is absolutely absurd.
well, if you look in the bottom, it's, we're gonna work through the bank to get the policy where you can get the one-time use.
But here's the thing, me and April were both in that meeting, we don't even have a credit card through Nicolay. Nicolay has the virtual credit card. It also says that the treasurer must authorize a new credit card with, after board approval. April can't just open up a Nicolay credit card and we start using virtual ones, is what I'm getting at.
I know we have to have the board approve us to go through Nicolay, which I reached out to Jolene to get rates, so I know what the virtual would be. The board would have to approve us to go through that, then you'd have to close the AACU and switch everything if we're gonna try to go that route.
So
Do we have that information? from
no
her?
communication here, this is no
What happened
communication
to
dealing
the-
with the accounts that I handle every day.
Well, she just said that she had
Just
reached out to
now
her.
in front of everybody. But, so I did a quick poll. Me and my office took about 30 minutes yesterday and reached out to every county around us, and then we just randomly grabbed some in the state of Michigan. And there is not one county that only has one credit card and it cannot be used anywhere. That we were able to contact yesterday. Let me put that caveat out too. We had about 3 that didn't return our phone call or they were on lunch. I made a map for you guys. Presque Isle County has 31, Alpena County has 28, Mackinac County has 12, Otsego County has 3. And I'll tell you the problem with it is right now, my staff member 2 days ago spent 4 hours trying to book a hotel room for Veterans Office. And after everything was said and done, we ended up sending up a voucher so that person could just bring a check. The problem with it is also, I mean, I'll use myself as an example. 3 weeks ago, I went to a new treasurer's training. I used the county credit card to book the hotel. Everything's fine. They said, this is just a hold. I get down there and they said, okay, we need form of payment. I said, it's already on file. And they said, oh, no, you have to have that in person. That was just a hold it. So I'm paying for it myself and I get reimbursed. But what if you have a person that doesn't have a credit card at all? And they've now traveled 4 hours. What if you have a person that doesn't have that credit card limit and they've just traveled 4 hours? Hotels are tightening things up a little bit. And for us to tell our employees that it's an allowable expense to go on conference and then say, by the way, you've got to front the money until the next payroll, as some of our employees here can't afford that. I just went to the Amway Grand and after a discount, it was $600 for a hotel stay. Thankfully, I was able to use my own credit card for that. It's just a lot to ask for our employees. I know the sheriff's department is a whole another different animal, but I'd be more than happy to share this with you guys, this information. I'll just pass it out because we did the work on it.
Well, she's passing it out. That happened to me too last year. 5 of us for the Veterans Treatment Court went to a conference and same thing. We got to the hotel. They almost rejected us. They had to get Sherry on the phone. It was like 10 o'clock at night to try to sort out the credit cards. And if we don't use the county credit card and try to use our own, then they say we have to pay taxes on it. But you won't reimburse us the taxes we paid. So that becomes complicated because we don't have the county card. So it does create some problems on those. At least it has for me 2 or 3 occasions trying to do some conferences. But
You could ask every one of these offices and every one of them probably has that same story.
Do you
I'm
see
only
complications?
doing it once.
Do you
My
see
office is
complications
not
with
a
getting the
problem.
Nicolay?
Aren't you lucky?
sorry, what?
Do you see a complication in getting the Nicolay one-time use? Did she?
Like I said, I just asked her to send me the rates so like we could have them and I have not gotten that reviewed yet. we've never, I know the sheriff's department had credit cards in the past, but the county itself never released the credit card for trainings or anything. It was always kept in the board office. In the past, that was never something that we did. A lot of offices do just have us send a check and we pay a check voucher for it, because you know, if you got a conference coming up, you usually register about a month in advance. The room books out way in advance, gives us plenty of time to do the sales tax exempt. We send a check out, we get it paid for. So when they go there, there's no issue. They will ask you for a card to hold for incidentals, which you could use a debit card, but that's just if you would damage anything in the room. But most of the time we use checks to book the rooms for them. So that way we make sure all the taxes and everything are removed and it can come right through our office that way.
So we used credit cards previously until the change happened, whatever it was, a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I think we had, maybe it was 4 at the time. And a lot of our business is conducted that way, up to and including the mechanic as well, because he's able to utilize it through not having to buy things here in town. He's able to order things online. I guess my question is I'll simple it down to why is, as far as I recall, our credit card limit was $5,000. 5,000. Anybody that has a credit card probably has a personal limit greater than $5,000. You have FPS meeting every 2 weeks. You're getting a credit card statement every single month. If at some point in time you're identifying an impropriety, an issue, I think there was in one of the proposed considerations was, if you have if you have 2 issues with the card, then it shall be suspended and you'll have to come to the full board to make an explanation or request it to be reissued. But to bring it back, it's what in what world is only the controller trusted with a credit card and not a single other elected official or department has the trust to have a 5 or whatever that value is. This board doesn't trust the individuals that run these offices.
The credit card policy, because we are responsible for the credit card, if it's misused and we get that in FPS, it's already been charged.
Sure.
It's already been charged. So we already have to pay it because it's a county card.
You're correct.
So there comes the issue with that, is because if it's not for public purpose, which our funds are supposed to be used for a public purpose, and something is not, then we have a bill that we are paying that's not appropriate.
And you have remedy to go back at that department that has to find that monies from within their existing budget. And again, so what you're telling me is I don't have the authority or the trust. And I'm sorry, but that's where I'm going to bring this to, is you're saying that what any purchase my office has to validate it first for it to have the authority or the idea that it's being used for public. The assumption is that I'm going to make that error and the controller's office is not. I don't know how else to interpret this. That's how I interpret it. Everything I do, over $2 million budget. Yeah, everything we do has to be for the good of the office, the good of citizens and visitors, for public use, not for personal profit. That's a given. Everybody in this office is in agreement with that. It makes absolutely no sense. And it creates inefficiencies when this board seems to want to create transparency and efficiencies. Agree. You get a credit card bill that shows every single thing that went on that. And if there's an issue, you'll have it once a month and you can hold that department head accountable.
Or
It is the perfect.
individuals, or an individual's if it's a personal purchase. But I mean,
It's our level of comfort and what we are willing to put out there. You want $5,000 for every department head to be able to use at their discretion, that we have to come back to an FPS and say, maybe this wasn't an eligible purchase. Do we want to wait and see if we can get a one-time voucher from Nicolay, which means we don't have a credit card out there for everything?
There's a lot of liability for us
Yes, there is.
because we're responsible.
Right, and it isn't personal. It's whoever has it.
I personally think that if they're making purchases and they're not doing things they shouldn't with the card. If you have a set limit to the card, maybe it's lower than 5,000, 3,000 or something per department. And a lot of these departments will probably never even use it. Very rarely. But I know like the sheriff was saying, for the mechanic, he can save a lot of money by buying stuff online through Rock Auto and the various Ford outlets that I know personal experience. I buy a lot of my stuff from Rock Auto because it's half the price of what it is around here. Or if he's not able to do that, it's just costing the county money.
Well, we have
Still
set
a
up,
curse.
well, we have set up, I don't remember where it was. We have set up so that he can charge. I don't know if it was to Rock Auto, but I know we've got a couple places that he can charge.
We use the credit card to buy parts for him all the time.
Just real quick. I'm sorry.
And the reason why the change in the credit cards came from the auditors in 2022 when they talked to the board. They requested a change in our credit card policy because they were seeing issues.
I keep on questioning this auditor thing. I don't doubt that she said it, but then how come 82 other counties are doing it?
We're not responsible
We're
for 82
responsible
counties.
for our
Yeah.
county.
And Ms. Hammond, you brought up the liability portion of it, which is an exposure, right? That's our idea is limiting exposure. I guess my response would be, the individuals we're talking about, this is the least amount of liability their job probably entails. The positions that they're doing and the jobs they have, good execution of them is what limits the liability to the county and to them, to their office. So a $5,000 credit card is probably the least exposure and liability to the county. 99% of the rest of their business is far greater of a responsibility and exposure to the county. So if you're entrusting us with that portion, or at least the public is entrusting us with that portion, I would ask the same from the board.
The auditor mentioned credit card usage. They said they've tightened the stance on the use of credit cards within government because they have been involved in fraud cases that in part were committed with credit cards. And we don't know who these people are. Most of our people, 99%, are probably all fine and well. But it's that 1% that you never know, and it might be whatever. While we noted no such problems here, they said it didn't hurt to have increased scrutiny. They noticed a few incidences of what they called minor purchases. She didn't designate what those were, that did not seem to have prior approval. There was some email thread that mentioned small purchases that shouldn't have been approved, but because they were already bought, they let it slide. Again, this amount, she said, was not a big deal, but the bigger deal is that purchasing control function was overridden by the use of the credit card, which is why we had gone to that policy. That's her audit, if you'd like to look at it. That was her statement.
Mary, can I just make a comment? I'm just making a comparison to our organization. We have credit cards in our different departments, but the checks and balances are our credit card authorization forms. And I'm just saying, as you think about it, like the checks and balances are really key for receipts. And like the credit card authorizations form is whose credit card did you use? Which credit card did you use? For what purpose? That person signs it. The department head signs it and the finance director signs. I mean, it's all, so there's a huge paper trail whenever a credit card is used. And that's just, and I'm sure other counties have that, but I'm just throwing that out as a.
And I don't know
And
if we
I've been
had
in
that
that same
policy
situation.
or not,
Lindsay
April.
has.
I don't know if we had that policy. That was, I believe,
don't
when we heard about it.
same form.
No, we didn't
We
have a
also
policy.
have one credit card
Oh, we didn't
in
have
our
any.
county building. Sheriff Department, I believe, has 3
We're not,
with
I
very
don't,
short limits.
so Ms. Hardee's, I don't think every department's asking for a credit card. I know I'm not.
No, I'm just saying what the auditor said.
I know what you're saying, what the auditor said, but you're basically, you tie one hand behind your back by having one credit card. It's not even feasible at this point. I mean, we've had 3 credit cards for years. There's not been any misuse of those cards. I mean,
Did the auditor recommend one credit card? Or did
The
they give
public-
recommendations
I mean, the-
on,
No.
the Public Act itself reads officers and employees.
Tracking like. what
It's
the
not-
county's saying.
It's
No,
not
but that's what I
singular.
said, we do.
Your liability is limited on a month-to-month basis if you have a limit of 5,000 or 3,000. I mean, if somebody does misuse it, you're out either 3,000 or 5,000, and it'll be corrected right away when you get the statement.
It's already spent at that point. so.
Yeah, but you got options too.
They sign that waiver.
Sheriff said they can take it out of their budget if it's someone in their department that misused it, or
I'm just.
obviously they'd be fired for doing something like that. And they keep your last check, and you have an option to
Well,
get
we
some
don't
of it back. You're not out every penny of it.
No, we don't have that.
We had an employee 10 years ago that didn't have a credit card, and she certainly embezzled quite a bit of money from this county. But she didn't have a credit card.
May I ask this policy that was sent separately? I mean, that seems somewhat reasonable because it has some balances in there and limitations and is this up for consideration or
I was wondering about that. I read that too.
it was in the packet that got sent?
So we had submitted that because we did it like a compilation of multiple different counties and their policies. Yeah, and we're not suggesting having 20 credit cards and everybody just has them and no one knows where they're at. Everything would be documented as to who had what card, what department had what card. You'd still have an authorization form. Everybody, the department head would have to sign for it. And then I think in that policy, it even noted that if there was misuse or you didn't return a receipt back within 3 business days, you get your card revoked.
Can we have the attorney give us an update on that?
The attorney's gonna tell you that you guys need to decide how you wanna handle it.
Yeah.
So the 5 of you need to decide if you want to keep the policy you have, make edits to the one you have, or adopt a new one. Honestly, and then they can review it for accuracy after that, but you guys need, the process itself, that needs to be you guys.
Back to Ms. Hamlin about liability, I'd like to know if we have proof that all of, including yourself, the board, and our offices, sheriff's department, that we have a current bond on everybody and get an audit of that. I don't know if I read that in here about bond, but that's to protect that liability for the county. So we really need to make sure that we have a really good bond, because it's come up a lot about liability. So that would protect a lot of things, particularly what everybody speak about with the credit card. I don't know if I've been reversed or asked about bond for years in our office.
Do that like every
It's a
year?
blanket bond under the
Do it with
county.
Murma.
Yeah. And then the treasurer's supposed to have a certain dollar amount or something.
Is there one for each department or just for?
It's a
the
blanket.
It's a
bond,
blanket for
everybody?
the
Okay.
county.
I would like to see a copy of it, because I was asked about that at one point for audit, didn't provide it because I said I didn't have it, but it'd be nice to see. And make sure that that covers everything that we're talking about today.
Credit card policy.
I'd like to look into something different myself, because one seems extreme for the whole county to have to share the one card. I don't know what would be the right number.
I don't know, it's interesting, we put it into effect and we really didn't have anybody use it. In the last 2 years since we put it in.
Yeah, how
we
often-
never really had it used.
How often was it used in the last couple of
When you
years?
put the policy into effect, we were spending upwards to $2,000 a month, and now you're lucky if you spend 1,000.
And most of
Reduced
those
it.
purchases are Amazon purchases. However, because this credit card policy
Or
is
having
so
them cut the
strict, we've
check.
been having a
Or
lot
we
of
can get
employees trying to
reimbursed, they do-
circumvent it.
They can be reimbursed.
So they'll make the purchase and then just put it in for reimbursement because they don't want to go through the hassle.
Well, because it's a paper trail hassle for him, that he just goes and buys it locally.
Well, they do because we just got quite a few of these that we did credit cards for him. The last FPF. We had numerous ones that he's used, so I'm not sure how he's.
He submits a credit card purchase, and we get it processed for him.
Can you talk a little bit louder, please?
We were just saying, he was just mentioning about Bernie using it, and we said in the last FPS, we had several that he did, that he had obviously submitted a request for and got them.
Yeah, so it's a request to an approval, then you can do it. This could be a 2-day turnaround for
Pens
an
without
item.
asking for permission to buy blue pens. I mean, sometimes. it's a
You
little
have,
much.
you have supply lines that you can.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
can't
till
do
they get
it.
scrutinized.
And I have to go through and I have to sometimes explain why I want something, or I'm told I should get something different. And really, if I'm deciding and it's in my line item, I shouldn't have to deal with so much back and forth. It takes quite a bit of time just to get one thing. I don't know why I can't put the order in and.
Well, we have
It's
the
just a
purchase.
frustration.
Anything can be ordered on your supply line for office supplies for your specific office that you want. If you want something on the general stores. And us Dakota general store line, then it's a different story. That's where that conversation. is.
Right, because the general store just has the basics.
Mhm.
And we-
This is more, have you, I know Lindsay just mentioned buying stuff off of Amazon. Oscoda just was able to negotiate a governmental business account with Amazon and set up. Okay, we
Dawn
have
has
that now?
one.
Dawn has one.
Yeah.
The treasurer Bill over there set it up so that the clerk's office has their separate little approval and his office and then my office along with, I think the sheriff's department has their own.
Yeah, you
That-
can do like sub-accounts underneath.
That you can set up like purchase limits and then you buy and they send you an invoice instead of doing it off the credit card.
Yeah.
It still gets charged to the credit card because that's the payment function you put in there.
We send check.
Then go send a check.
Yeah.
I can ask them. on that one.
So that
everybody that can might be
log
a-
in basically. So it's a county login with your own individual access for your department that has a limit and approval process. So you can set it up so that, yes, you want to have a login for, say, probate to do it, but you want the judge to be the only one to say, yes, you can purchase that stuff. They can go and put as much in their cart as they want, but the judge has to be the one to go in and say, yes, I want this to be purchased. And we've been using it for just over a year now, and it's been really nice.
Do you find it to be a better pricing range compared to other companies and vendors, or do you?
We were using Office
Just kinda
Impact
check it.
beforehand, and Office Impact was really expensive compared to Amazon. The only problem is you have to wait for it to get shipped.
I did just
But
set up
with
the
the new
separate
Gaylord
accounts
Center,
for
it's been-
Staples Advantage so that everybody can
super
log in and add to the cart and get
Yeah. I can do that.
prices and stuff like
Like
that.
So this would be,
Have to
so
check
that
what
would be
you're
like
buying.
that?
Yeah.
It just depends on what site you're on and what's cheaper. Yeah, we've had the Amazon was set up
And then
initially.
the
by
the
me.
Nicolay thing.
Dawn and I
too.
had it. and
An
then
option.
they-
I just know
get
that
later.
last year they
I
started.
did
changing
request it.
that
I
if
just
you
got an
order
email. I gotta
purchase
look through the rates. I
orders,
just got it today.
We get
this
invoice
afternoon.
and then.
How would that
Pan
work
out.
again? That,
So if we have a card through Nicolay, what you do is when someone puts a request in, then you just email them the virtual card number so they can make the purchase themselves. And then it's done, one-time use. And then, so every time someone wants to purchase, they get the virtual card number. So
And that would work for hotels and things like
Yeah.
that. That's great. That's great.
seems like that would be.
It is, yeah, it totally is a great option.
and that's what I'm
that would-
suggesting us looking into.
Yeah.
That would free it up,
That's
so
something we can add.
people could take something with them.
27th.
Yeah, yeah, I'll get the
Okay,
rate.
let's do that.
So it's
We're gonna add it to the 27th
Yeah.
to see, because then she'll have the information. She just got it from Nicola.
Basically a glorified debit card.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it's a one-time use. They give you the credit card.
It's not refillable like you. just,
Something we talked about when we initially did the credit card policy too, was through the prepaid credit card accounts. So we could have a prepay business card basically, where you go online and you would fund a card for a certain thing, and then you could sign those out. And so if they had to go, they could take that card in, and it would only be, you basically put exactly what it's for when you load the card and how much is on there. And we talked about that when we originally did this policy, that I thought would be a good idea to use, because then if somebody did have to take it physically, take a card, they could, but it would only be for that purchase, it would be, they would return it back in and then you would reload it the next time somebody needed it. That was another option that we looked into when we first did these policies.
It just
Did we
seems like
find
a lot
common
of work.
vendors? There was a card issue though, wasn't it? Money charged or what was it?
Nope, I don't remember.
Yeah,
A few years
I was
ago,
gonna
but
say that was a couple years ago. Yeah, because that's a good option too.
But it really isn't. I mean, that's a lot more added work for the controller's office to have to take on when we could just trust elected officials and department heads with a $2,000 credit card. If you're gonna.
We're gonna look at options. She's gonna look at options.
And that'd be my preferred option, like I said. Unnecessary red tape, paperwork associated with that, like you're talking about. This $2,000 limit, and that the monthly or quarterly, whatever you sign, and you have to rectify all your expenses that, submit all your, probably not quarterly, but maybe monthly, turn in all your receipts and make sure everything balances out.
Yeah, but it's probably not gonna be a good process if somebody misuses it and you have to go back and get it either. I mean, there's give or take. I get it.
Limiting
I get it.
liability by limiting the amount you. try to
Yeah,
turn
so
in
that can be
for.
part of the action. What else?
Also, under the credit card policy, the number 5, charge approval.
Just wait, we're putting that on because we're gonna look at some other options. So,
On the 27th.
yeah, on the 27th, we can look at that. So we don't need to go with that.
I just didn't, I know we're still talking about, we're getting more info on the credit card, but just in general, under the credit card, section 6, where it says the balance and any interest due shall be paid within 60 days of the statement date, but I don't know if that varies by card, so,
It would be 30. That was something I noted because we pay it within 30 days.
okay, so I just want to make sure it's like, if you say 60, but then you're paying just.
The only change to the startup petty cash policy was just, I updated the numbers according to what Lindsay had provided. The ACH electronic transactions, I don't think we've done this, but looking at like statute on that, you should make a resolution that's stating who's your ETO, your electronic transactions officer. Because we do have electronic payments, ACHs and things like that. So we really should look into putting that resolution in place and naming that, and then the policy that goes with it follows, that came from municipal league.
What number is that?
3.6.
37, page 37.
Yeah, because when I read the public act, it basically says you can have the treasurer or the ETO like it's stated here, so it doesn't say that you need to have the ETO, so I don't understand like why we're adding another.
It says the governing body shall have adopted a resolution to authorize electronic transactions and have received a copy of this policy. So you have to have a resolution saying that you're gonna have that and put that policy into place. Number 1 under authority to enter. I don't know, we might have done one long time ago, but I'm sure things have been updated since, so just have updated resolutions wording saying that we do have ACH transactions and that we enter into them. And it's a 2-part because the treasurer will have ACH for like payments coming in, and then we have payments going out. So it, goes both ways.
So the treasurer is the ETO, so the
No,
board just needs.
the treasurer and an ETO, so you need to designate an ETO, so like you could say the controller is the ETO, the treasurer and ETO would be doing all the ACH transactions. Get saying.
Okay, I guess can we just get leave the ETO? Point, I read it, I just read it differently, like it's saying you don't need both, like you can have one or the other with the responsibility. I don't know, I guess it's just.
Yeah, that's the way I'm looking at either or.
Yeah, like not both, so I'm just.
saying we have both incoming and outgoing, so we probably should have both named is what I'm trying to say.
Both named.
Yes. Approving it, because they will handle all, like through Sigma and things like that, all payments coming in, they handle the ACHs in the treasurer's office, where I set them up on the way going out. So
Should we just put
Lindsay would
treasurer
not have
and?
to, she's not gonna have to take care of my vendor forms that have, like, when we're setting up somebody's ACH payment. I wouldn't want her to have to take care of that, just as I don't want to have to take care of her payments coming in. You see what I'm saying?
So we should change it to and.
I
treasurer
would
and.
I would like Matt to look at that
Okay.
part,
Okay.
review. But I'm just saying we should probably have an updated resolution,
Yeah.
and it's because it's 2 parts. In and out. Yeah. 3.7 claims, I just updated the change in the signing.
Right.
That's all, the rest was the same.
I'm still in disagreement with that. I know I voiced it before. I also contacted BSNA. I have an email right here saying that we absolutely can do electronic signatures. It would go through an approval process through BSNA. Why we're not using it to its full extent, we pay for it. I don't know.
So we all went, when Bill called to have him set it up, the thing is there is no technical approval process because when we print the checks, the names go on it and you get a notification. It's not an actual where you have to hit the button to approve it to print the check. So
As
So
far
it
as-
can print
there's no
without the
check.
approval.
This is from BSNA. As far as adding your signature to the check, that can be done on the format itself, so you don't need to physically sign it. Since you already have an approval workflow for invoices, the signature would be on the check once that invoice is approved and the check run is completed. Per
Yeah.
BSNA.
That's correct. But again, you wouldn't physically approve that signing. The checks would just be printed without you actually inspecting those checks. So they go through claims and it's approved and go through them.
Then it comes to me. I
No,
go
it
through
wouldn't
them.
come to you. There's no check spot for actual approval. That's what we asked them. Is there a spot where you're gonna see a check and be able to hit, yes, I approve this check, and then I'm gonna be able to do it? No, it's just if it hits the approval process and it's done, checks get printed with the names on them, and there's no other thing other than a notification that that check got printed. There's no step by step. So she wouldn't, so technically the treasurer wouldn't have to physically inspect any of the checks being printed. It was just hit that blanket approval process and then they get printed. That was the worry, that there's no actual physical inspection of the checks at all at that point.
Is it a matter of a report? Are you like viewing a report, the same report that claims views?
I was gonna say, then I can just sit at claims and accounts and physically view all the checks that come through. Sherry did every 2 weeks. I can stay here for that.
I get that. I'm just saying that if they were to get entered and they got approved, there's no way those checks just get printed whether or not. So say somebody added a check to that and got printed and she never saw it. All she's gonna get is a notification that was printed, not that she actually physically inspected the check. That's my only concern when we were looking at it. Because I asked BSNA, is there a way that all the checks are gonna get printed before it can get printed, that she's gonna be able to hit, yes, I approve these following checks to get printed and not allow anything more to go? And they said, no, there's no way to do that. They just get notified that they got printed. So it would just all be after the case.
Yeah,
Because I thought that there should be some way for them to just be able to hit an approve button, then allows them to then get printed, but that's not the case. And that would just.
so checks could go out with actually them not actually having approved.
Correct.
How is that any different after the liability issue? The way you're doing it now, how is that any different?
Because the checks are printed and she has to physically get them and sign them. Otherwise they would just be printed with signatures on them and nobody actually physically looked at them.
So why couldn't somebody, after the printing of them, still look at them before they actually get mailed?
They could, but I'm just saying,
And then, I mean, it would be like any other.
but
thing
they're
you
already
had to
signed.
pull
There's
it.
now no way to stop it. Once the treasurer's signature's on it, there's no way to stop it.
Well, you look at them, but if you need, just as if a mistake was made, then you would have to void a check after the fact. I mean, it happens, all the time. If a check gets printed and maybe it was for the wrong amount, maybe it was made out to the wrong vendor.
I get that, but
then
I'm
you
just saying,
can
if
void.
somebody went in and printed a check and none of us saw it and it went out there, there's no way to void it at that point. It's just gone.
I just-
I think it's called checks and balances.
Yeah.
I just don't, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel on this. I just know that so many other treasurers are using the electronic signature and they're using BSNA to its full capacity. Why aren't we? That's really the only question. I don't care that I'm physically signing 50 checks. It takes 5 minutes of my time. I just want to use the system to its full capability. That's it.
And it's, how many checks do we have to worry
How
about?
comfortable we are.
What are we talking?
It ranges. It could be a handful to maybe 20, 30.
Biden doesn't use auto pen anymore.
I think what April's trying to say is, say you've run all your checks and you're all fine, it's gone through the approval process, then they walk out of their office and someone walks into the office and hits print on another check. Without-
Her office's but I have only signed the approval for this amount of checks, this check number to this check number.
Correct.
Anything outside
But
of
you're gonna
that-
you're gonna get a notice that says, hey, this check is gone out and that check's already walked out the door and gone away.
Then I can call April's office and say, how come that check got printed? I only approved check number this to this.
By
Correct.
that time, that check's gone.
Right, which is why
Which-
this would make sense.
Which is why I think
When
they
it's
went
on
with
us.
that policy is to say that nothing is
Someone
getting
could forge
printed.
my signature too.
I mean, Laura
I-
lives here.
Yeah, what if?
And that's where we come in. We're responsible.
God.
So,
But aren't those reviewed at FPS though, before they're mailed out?
No,
a
back.
report is, just like it could. the
Report
text
is
could
and
be
then
go
reviewed
number
Before they
by
get
check,
something in the
number
mail.
by check.
And when, if ever, has it happened where there's been problems?
Not because we're physically inspecting them every time we send them out.
I guess it's a good job to hear you.
What else?
Then you get to the council policy that
Yeah.
3.13.
I'm sorry, just, I
one?
apologize. I know so you're still you're coming out of the claims and all that stuff, right? Or the ACH stuff?
Yeah,
Okay, so 3.8, it would be page 39. As it, just the very first one, I guess I'll say, the purpose, and I don't recall. It's also in number 2. I guess what I'd be looking for is, it speaks specifically to the purpose of all contracts, speaks to the board of commissioners, the county controller, the reviewed all contracts, proper administration, yada, yada, which those steps are fine, but the one thing that has occurred as we start, like I'll say IT phone systems, they become more conglomerate, that department heads are involved when there is going to be an effect on an individual's office, that the department head is part of that authorization or endorsement process for the contract. Because this could be, the sliced bread for one office, but completely maybe for, I mean, literally up until I think it was 2 months ago, we were still dealing with phone issues. So like little things like that, it's just making sure that every office that is going to be affected at least has some sort of active input or something with the board.
Or some sort of administration over your own office.
Yeah, I mean, the extreme of that would be saying no, the ability to say no, well, you might be going to this thing, but we want to stay with the thing we have because it works, it's efficient, etc. This seems to remove the ability of the office to have a say in decisions like that. And again, I read through this really fast, so I apologize if maybe that's identified somewhere else, but just in the time I got to go through the packet, I didn't see anywhere where it got addressed again.
there's no changes from the old policies. This is the same one that we had. I said this is the same as the old one, so
No changes.
no changes from the one you guys already reviewed.
Right, and again, this is, I mean, numbers are different, so I would just encourage there to be something in there that identifies the
Yeah.
office as having some authority within the decision-making process for contracts that affect their offices. Or may affect their offices.
We have talked about issues coming to the board. We did talk about the different phone services, I know several times last year. So you would have you'd have input in that. Is that what?
Well, to some extent, yeah, I mean, if in the perfect world, there's great discussion, it's just there are certain decisions that are made that like for us, for example, we may not have changed all of our phone system because the entire courthouse decided to change a phone system. Teresa's not, like, the register of deeds isn't here. There's things that impact, and especially because everything now is VoIP and everything's server related and everything talks to each other. There are gonna be more and more occurrences where it might work for this office or it might work for these offices, but it doesn't work for that office. I guess all I'm saying is, at least, again, this is policy. Lord willing, we're not doing this again. So by at least identifying the department heads or elected offices in here, just seems like kind of like the checks and balances thing you just said. Let's have that checks and balances, say we've gotten all the stakeholders here and we're all in agreement, or at least giving voice to those that might be affected by it adversely.
Those things are discussed at a board meeting.
Okay.
Well, so wasn't really discussed. I don't know if it really affects me or not, because I don't know, but there were there's changes being made to doors. I don't know if they're to doors that affect the courthouse section or not, but it wasn't brought to my attention, so I don't know, and I don't know if I'd say, yeah, that sounds good, because I know we're moving, and April's working on that. I'm not trying to discredit her, because she's got a lot that she does. I just, and it's hard to maybe keep everybody informed, but I don't really know. And I was gonna talk to her privately about that, just to ask what doors are we talking about? Does it affect the courthouse at all?
Well, here, we're, these
It's
doors,
fixing, this door's broken, the inside mechanism is
So it does
disintegrated.
affect a court room, because it's,
And a new key fob is being added.
and it's taken from another door, but I don't know what door. So
It's
it
a
might
one that's not
affect
being
me
used.
or us, but, so that's good. It's just, again, the communication part of it is, and that's a contract, so I think that kind of applies to what Jay was talking about. Again, I was just using it as an
Worried about-
example because somebody said there wasn't an
But we
example.
had-
Entering into a contract that he doesn't agree with.
I agree. Yeah, there's always something. And things can't just stand still forever, right? So I acknowledge that and accept that decisions have to be made and action has to be taken. I appreciate that it's done, so I'm not, I didn't try to bring it up to be critical of that. I just think sometimes we don't always talk.
I think there should be communication on anybody who's impacted by a decision, and that doesn't mean that the board will agree with the perspective of whoever's offering input, but I certainly believe that there should be dialogue and input from anybody who might be affected, so that we can understand that we're making what we think is the best decision for the county.
what's next, 316?
313.
Oh, the county council.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the one that was brought to us.
This is the one he gave us.
He gave it to, well, no, this was the one originally proposed to us from the department heads and then sent to Matt for red line. And then his email, he said, when he sent it back, we said red line contract or policy is ultimately up to the board's discretion on how flow of information and how that works. That's up to you guys. He doesn't have any specific requirements or anything that you have to do. That's your guys' prerogative.
So is this a whole new section or?
Yeah,
Yeah, this is.
I haven't even had a chance to even.
No, this is
this
new
was
to
the
this
one
packet.
sent over by, like I said, from the department heads that asked for it. And again, we can wait and look at it at the 27th, but this is just, to
I don't have a problem with it.
I read through it fairly quickly and I don't really agree with it. Mainly because it seems, I mean, I don't have a problem copying anybody on my emails unless I have a direct conflict with that person. And it doesn't really give much movement for that. Says, all requests to counsel for legal opinions shall be in writing, email accepted, stating the authority allowing the request from the list above. So as it sits, it's saying that an elected official has to get permission from the chairperson and or the county controller. All written requests must be copied to the chairperson and the county controller. What if I have a direct conflict with one of those two people? All opinions from legal counsel will be in writing and forwarded to the controller, and the controller will forward to commissioners and any involved elected officials.
That's because he's the county legal counsel. He
Right.
does say the dissemination of attorney opinions, all information shared between the county and council is subject to attorney county
Right, but he's also counsel just for us as elected officials.
Well, I thought he had said that if you had something specifically, you might have to get your own
lawyer.
legal.
Well,
If it's
Well, but it-
litigation against the county.
Against
other
the
than
county, but if I have
courts, correct.
something specific to my office, I shouldn't have to ask April or you to contact the attorney if I need a legal opinion on something specific to my office.
well, typically what I've done in the past is I emailed April or and maybe CC'd the chair in the past and said, hey, I've got an election question. I need to reach out to the county attorney. But I don't CC the board on what my correspondence is. It isn't any of their business.
You don't have
Nope,
to.
usually she just sends it to me and then I'll forward it to Matt and say, please help
Yeah.
Cheryl get this taken care of.
Yeah, I don't know. that
That's
we've
been
ever
taken care of.
refused it, have we? No.
No, I mean, but in those situations, but right here, you're saying, oh, written request copy to, and unless you're saying, okay, and I don't have a problem with that. Like I said, I can, hey, I've got an election issue or election question. I need to reach out to the county attorneys. That's okay. But again, to have whatever that correspondence that goes back and forth between the attorney and myself, I'm not copying the board on or the chair.
I don't think it's asking.
So I don't know, am I reading something not in here? I mean,
It all
does
the
read a little
opinions.
Yeah.
The opinions come back to us, like the letters he sends us.
So the written request, that's what you usually do. You've always sent an email request asking, like, for Don and I, like you would send it to both Don and I, asking if you could talk to the attorney. I forwarded it to Matt, can you please assist? And then you dealt directly with him, and that's how it's always gone.
Okay.
That's no different, like a written request, you're just letting us know, because we're gonna have to get a bill, and we're gonna have to say that this charge is accurate, and this is why.
Well, when it just says all written requests must be copied to the board chair and the controller. So that almost reads that I now have to, whatever my question is to the attorney, that I need to CC you guys on after I get my approval, which I'm not doing. Is that sentence, I mean, am I just putting too much into that sentence?
Yeah,
All written
too
requests
much. It's
must be
just 'cause
copied
you're
to
asking
the
a
board
request to
chair
go-
and the controller.
If you're asking a request to go to the attorney, you usually just send that to
So
us. and then
just
we
the
forward it.
initial request.
Right,
Is all
right,
that's referring to.
right.
And legal opinions, we don't ever usually get a legal opinion unless the full board is voted to do that, because that is a hefty cost.
Yeah.
So we don't ask for legal opinions unless the full board has
Right.
made that approval.
But, hey, what's the statute mean to you, like an email thing?
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of a little less expensive, but certainly still something in terms of cost. You want to buy it.
What else do we have?
So if we have to ask permission and ask to flow through, does April have to ask permission every time she contacts for advice?
We usually direct her to call. What we have done is, when the board has asked for a question, when we've had a meeting, is we've asked her to contact counsel. We've done that several times.
I think her question is she contact counsel of her own doing?
So I've never contacted the attorney without letting the chair know. Unless we're working with negotiations.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
As long as it's wrote down somewhere that it's the way it should happen is.
Mhm.
You need to
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
let the chair
thing.
know what you're doing.
Yep, I do. And I've always have. I don't reach out. And like I said, unless we're like working on union negotiations where it's a constant back and forth communication, trying to get all that stuff done. The initial request to go to the attorney was already asked. But anything else that goes to the attorney has always been the chair first before proceeding.
Initial request for a statement cause it don't jump to something else, and onto something else,
Mhm.
and onto something else.
Yep.
Well, so there was no real changes. The social media thing is being reviewed.
Yeah, because there was a comment that we have to allow or disallow comments if you are using government social media. So like if you put something out, you have to allow comment, otherwise you're infringing on First Amendment rights. So that's why we want the attorney to review our policy, because I think we have to have a statement in there about that.
He had mentioned that to Michelle and I when we spoke to him.
Same thing, there's some social media things that you see online, about to know land or wherever that people are posting stuff on business hours of probably working or should be working, but there's no differentiation from if they're on their own time, on their break, or if they're doing it on the county time, where it's just a matter of appearances.
It would just be if you're utilizing like the county name, like if you're posting as, you know, like, for instance, the treasurer had a page where they posted,
I'm just saying, if
reports
someone
or
you
whatever, they could do
know
that.
works at the courthouse and at 10 o'clock in the afternoon or morning, they're posting on social media, which should be their time that they're working. They might have, they often just, like I said, a matter of appearances that it should encourage everybody that works in the county not to be posting on Facebook or wherever.
Yeah, but
during
that was a
hours.
question they asked the attorneys. You can't tell them yes or no when they can or cannot post on it. It's just a matter of if you're using government.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make a new rule that says you
Yeah.
absolutely can't do it. I'm just saying that
I think it
it
comes
should
down
be
to
made
the
plain to the
department heads and
department,
elected
or everybody,
officials.
that it's a matter of
Monitor
appearances.
that.
It can look like you're just screwing around on your phone during working hours.
I think to me, it makes sense maybe to ask the attorney about adding, and maybe there should be a statement in the policy. Something regarding like, not to. I don't know, if this makes sense, like you're not to post representing the county. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not gonna post like, I'm representing the county and I'm saying this from like personal pages. I don't know if there's like a policy related, you know what I'm saying, like how that could be
Well,
like.
this is
your-
only related to the county website. This isn't
No.
their personal page.
No, it talks about you know,
I think it does personal also, county and personal, doesn't it?
I'm saying
Yeah.
like if
It
you're.
says
an
make it clear in your
individual
social media
with social
activity that
media
you are
account.
speaking.
and you have to be careful.
Yeah.
That's why I said, that's why we have it noted for the attorney to review it, because like there's times where, and this isn't just social media, but it's in general, like with media in general, we get calls from news anchors that want to interview on and ask you questions because of something that just happened. That happens all the time. So what can you legally can and cannot do? Because you have to, you know, deal with the public. So that's why I was going to review the whole policy.
Okay, so this is going to the lawyer. What else?
4.6 building safety and security. All I did was update it to say never using the phone system page button, and changed where it said courthouse to county building. Those kind of
What page
little
are you
things.
on? 59. 59. Gotta find the page.
Adding the phone system page button.
Yeah, because it said 555 still from our old system. It needed to be updated.
I didn't get that part of my review, so I'm sorry, I ran out of time.
I will say that
I think there was much other.
there are some things that we need to double check on business closure, just on how you want that to work. Like, it doesn't happen often. Like, there's a big snowstorm not that long ago, and the judge texted me that they were gonna delay the courts till 10 o'clock. Like, we need to make sure we know how we handle things like that in the county, who's gonna make that call, and then how are you supposed to contact everybody?
Is it
We really need to clear that out.
Is it how?
It doesn't happen often, so it's so hard to. And we played it by ear and we were actually okay, just kind of just said, you know, obviously court was postponed, but we were open at
Right.
normal time, but
I
you know.
think that was Alpena courts.
Yeah, they kind of dictated to
They,
us.
well, I didn't know that we closed.
It was a delay, 2-hour
Or,
delay.
yeah, I didn't know if we
Remember
were
that one
delayed.
day?
I don't remember which court I was in. I
Is there
was,
something in there?
I either,
Don't
but
you
I
love
know
being
that
in
they,
multiple places
well,
at once?
it's not like that. But Alpena got it because I know the circuit affects the circuit, not
Yeah.
probate and the district.
Yeah.
So what happens is front of the court is actually an office that's a substation or juvenile division, so they will have to adhere to their closure is what happens, and vice versa. We have been closed and they're open and they have to report to work.
Yeah, it's.
That's the
pretty
difference.
So does it go by department, each department would
So
let people know, or do we have to do it per courthouse?
So we've
bizarre.
had,
Sometimes our weather's different than. Alpena's.
Yeah.
sometimes we've had Well, like when Judge Black before, I know when we knew we had a huge storm coming in, I was able to get a hold of them and we were able to close both courts and the building because of that incident.
Right.
But then there's times where the county might decide, hey, we're gonna shut down early, but the courts don't agree, or sometimes they do agree. So we have to allow the building to stay open for the courts if they can't get that order to shut down or not open.
And most of the time, we try to
coordinate
cooperate,
it.
but like, I
It's just not
remember
always
one
easy.
time, I think it was one time, we had a trial, and there was no way we could stop that trial from happening, so I think we stayed open when maybe the rest of the building was closed, but it does make it more difficult, because part of, the costs are still there in being open, someone still has to come and plow, but we couldn't cancel the jury because it was the night of, or the day just before the trial. It happened
It's
once in the
happened
4
more
years
than
I've
once.
been
Did we the
Oh,
last
happened more
time
than
decide to go?
motion days and we've stuff.
There's been times where we've decided to close and there's been times we didn't. And we kind of have made it like if all like schools around us have closed and then it looks like the weather's gonna be pretty horrible, we can just shut down for the day. But I think that's
But
only happened
sometimes
a
none of
couple
that
times.
happens.
Yeah, and
Now, how does that
We-
get out to the public?
I feel that, and that's the thing, well, we notify the news media, we let them know, so everybody's aware. A lot of the time, I've been trying to just say within a department, let the department head, like if they live close by, they might show up and let their staff have a little leeway in getting in there or coming in
Let
late
them
or
decide-
something, let
let
them
them
decide
decide.
it within
So
their
let that be a
department.
department issue?
Yeah, because I don't want to shut down the whole building if people live close by and they have no problem coming in. It's a hard call to make, because it might be crappy at 7 o'clock in the morning, but be totally fine by 10 a.m.
Right.
Someone that has to go to
I know, sometimes
It's just a matter of, like, if part of us is closed and part is open.
And we
then
cover
it's
Lewiston,
just
Hillman, Atlanta.
communicating it.
We have people that live in Hillman,
Public.
Lewiston, Atlanta. It might be horrible snowstorm in Lewiston, but be sunny as can be here. So I'm not gonna close the building because that's why we've usually said if all 3 schools close down, then we'll kind of evaluate, should we close? But we kind of just been letting it go, let the departments make that decision because
I guess I don't.
just saying that's something we can review that in the building security meeting more and go through those kinds of things, but this is just.
I think the court is. They don't cancel very often.
No.
I
Almost
would say,
never.
I would say that going with the court would probably be sufficient, I would think. The exception of the delay, so, if they delay, then I think we could still be open.
You just have to remember that if Calpina delays, it's not gonna affect everybody here in our
Right.
court system
Only LLC
It's hard.
and juvenile.
and June.
It's weird.
Performance review and that's
Yeah, the only thing changed there,
71. These are all the same. These weren't.
all
changed.
those policies stayed the same.
I have a quick question, and we have a suggested edit on 4.9 workplace tobacco usage.
What section was that?
4.9. Even before I was here, when I was here before, when I wasn't here, now that I'm here, I've heard a lot of public comment about people smoking in the front of the building. And people having to walk through a cloud of smoke in the back of the building to come into a public office. So it just says, it just breaks it down into all these different things. Well, it's illegal to smoke in a government building per state law, so you could just state that. And then maybe put not in any county-owned vehicles. But can we put somewhere where we designate where the smoking area is?
I suppose you could get a sign that designates.
It always was back here, like underneath this thing, and it was away from people.
So this is the problem. If somebody pulls in a parking lot, they're a customer or whatever, and they pull up on the backside of the building and they park right there in the walkway and they decide they're gonna smoke a cigarette. Can you tell them not to? Because anybody that walks in that building is gonna have to walk right past that smoke.
Right, but this is a personnel policy. I'm talking about county employees. I have been witness to someone say, okay, just a minute. Yep, I'll go help you from the back door. I just think it's really tacky for county employees to be smoking at the main entrance is all.
And a lot of them already do take breaks over there by the prosecutor's office. It's like an
If
ideal
we,
spot.
right, if we could just have like a designated area.
Well, that's not a main entrance.
Right.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying,
Employees
like
only.
over here. You mean for a smoking area right
Yeah,
down
for
here?
employees only.
Yeah, just so that people
On
aren't
their breaks, when
going,
they take their breaks.
going to the front door or the back door smoking cigarettes. It just doesn't designate a place in here, and until you designate, someone can say, well, I can smoke here wherever I want. I wouldn't let my staff, but just a suggestion.
Employees would like it, but some places say nowhere on the property.
Then most of them.
Yeah, most of them do a pretty good job, but for a while there was a group of like 3-4 people by this back door, and it was terrible.
Did you say not within so many feet of an entrance?
What's that?
Did you say like not within so many feet of an entrance?
Because.
You have multiple entrances in this building, so you kind
yeah, just, we
make it
always just
difficult.
had, when I was a smoker.
You have to
it was right
designate
down
more than
here.
one because
Yeah.
we have 2 entrances. You'd have to designate one here and one there.
I don't-
Thunder Bay Clinic in Hillman doesn't let anybody smoke in their car, employees. Cause they always drive down to my store and sit in the store and smoke cigarette and then they go back. But there's no smoking at any Thunder Bay property whatsoever.
Even at the college, not on the campus. at
Not
all.
even on the outside.
And they're
But I think we
really
would probably get
It is.
revolt if we.
I
told
agree, it's
companies
exorbitant
that they couldn't
not to be
smoke
on
on
the
their
property.
I think if it was me and it was my employees, I maybe would just suggest that they go to an area that's not, where people are trying to.
Just
that-
main
Wanna look at
entrance door is
designating
all
them?
I'm asking.
Can they do that to the, can you take that?
I
to
think you
the,
could just do that as a
building?
office person.
Open
Yeah.
security.
I mean, honestly, I think in your office, if we just say that,
Let the
re-
office
request
decide.
not to be smoking around main entrances, maybe we just add that language or something. But
Leave it to
at the
the
same
office.
time too, we have those smoke things that are by the entrance, so people are
Or public.
walking up and, but that's what people are gonna put their cigarettes out, that smoke here too.
Before the-
Like,
yeah.
you
But
can't,
that's the public doing it. I'm saying as a professional, we should
But
not
we're-
be standing.
Maybe you
out
could
there
just put in there, like you
smoking.
said, just refrain, try to refrain from smoking by the main, I don't know.
I don't know either, I mean,
Do you have a
it's
problem?
hard.
What do
No
you think?
entrance.
Nobody in my
Wrong.
office
Wrong.
smokes.
So
I don't really know.
No,
I
they
think if
go.
I had somebody that I mean, obviously, some people maybe only have a little limited time for a short break, and maybe that's all they can do is run outside for 3 seconds and get 2 puffs on the cigarette and they're good to go. And I'm okay with that, but I think, I mean, if it was maybe one of my staff or even myself, when I was a smoker, I really didn't stick to the main entrances. I was in the back where you were out of the eye of the public and people were having to walk through your stinky smoke. So
Can we just move?
I would just as soon say, why not leave it to the department if we know maybe it's an issue, maybe
Yeah.
the department head could
Leave it
say,
to-
hey,
Yeah,
I
the same thing.
think maybe it'd be a good idea, maybe if you could try to utilize this area, but, I mean, I don't know, I think you can
Yeah,
politely.
that'd be a good
I
idea.
don't know where the answer
If
is.
you move that thing, then you got
people coming in who are just dropping bugs
In the employment.
Well, no, I was gonna say you. Okay, so I
Added
don't know
the
where it's out
performance review
there, but like
section,
maybe
5.18, we talked about that, we had it
Yeah,
originally.
so
we
that
didn't put it
you're
in,
putting it out
I put it back in.
off the wall.
Okay.
This is, again, some things.
What are we talking about?
Use or not use in their office,
Performance review.
Yeah,
but
that
it's a
you,
standard. to
but
have.
that's up to your office.
So I had
For
a question,
department.
because I feel like it's a boardroom unique situation, so any direct hire under the board.
71.
You know, like, I don't know if in board policies, if that's where it goes, or some way of how would we conduct a review?
That's per department.
This is just a standard policy saying it, and then if you have a instrument you want to use within your department, then that would be up to you to use.
Pretty much any at-will employee, including you.
I guess
your
my
department.
my point was like, as a board, being the supervisor of a particular individual or staff member, like, because of the quorum issue and stuff, and like, how does that?
Well, we would be do the
Process.
controller. We can do it in closed session,
Mhm.
or we can do it independent and combine it.
Okay,
You know what I'm
so
saying?
we
Like
can just
everybody can get the
decide.
things. We
separate-
can, we
okay,
decide.
We can decide, that. So it doesn't have to be like written how it's
No,
done. we just
No, this
decide.
is just the policy, not.
My opinion,
procedure.
it should all be
Thank you.
closed door, you should not out in the public.
But the departments don't have to do that. They
Yeah.
can.
Yeah,
they can
yeah,
do
that-
their
This
own.
kind of just gives us a foundation to
To work off of.
model off.
big change I made in 6.2 employment classifications.
Well, no, but if you
Do it
want,
annually.
if you
I'm
want
sorry to
foundational
interrupt you,
there.
April. If we're going in order, I had a comment in one of my emails to you about, I think it was section 4. Because I hear somebody who just had a child. So I don't know, it talks about lactation rooms and refrigeration of their items. She's gonna be coming back at some point. I don't know what her needs are gonna be, but I know we don't have any of that. So I don't know for section 5.5, the accommodations. If she requests accommodations, I just take that to you. Because I don't know. if she's gonna need it.
That's,
But I
that's,
shouldn't
it's
have a
gonna be within your
private room,
department, honestly, because
Say that again?
it's gonna be within your department, honestly, because like the county doesn't have like a general meeting room.
Then why do
or-
we have a policy that says this? Because she's gonna wanna invoke that. I don't have a private place for her in my probate office. You see my offices, they're not there. She needs to have a place if it's gonna be one of the public rooms, attorney office rooms. I don't know. And I don't want to spend thousands of dollars. I'm not saying we need to convert everything for one person. I think we have a policy on it. It's the county's policy. not
Well, it's
my
a federal
policy.
policy that we have to have, that you allow for that. So basically, you're letting, the offices have to allow for them to do these things. And then you guys have to decide where she's most comfortable doing that at.
But the county
Hold
has to
it,
provide
how,
it.
I don't.
Could the jury room be used for that?
I don't know. I don't know, not if it's being used for a jury and it's not the most sterile place, but I'm just saying we've got this policy. I don't know how to. It's not it's not my policy. So if an employee needs to use it, how do they request it? I guess it hasn't come up yet. She isn't back. So I guess when she comes back or if she has a problem or concern, I'll bring it up at that time.
Probably need to be a locked room. Is that something that we can?
Well, we have lots of locked rooms. It's a matter of where she'd be comfortable in doing it at.
Yeah.
So
And
at
it really
her-
comes down to personal preference,
So
like,
we can, where would she want to, or is she even gonna do it?
is she even gonna do it
There's
or
one
whatever?
that's near where equalization was. that's,
Yeah, our old little conference room that's
Yeah.
now being used
That-
for.
The lock's been removed, but I think if Jeff would
Something-
put that lock back on, that might be sufficient, but I don't even know if she's gonna need it. That's why I almost
Well, maybe
was
we should
hesitant to
ask,
bring it up today. I don't wanna waste your time, because she might not have an issue.
we'll probably
But
ask,
we'll talk about it if it comes up. How's that?
and maybe ask her what she wants, you know, what
Yeah.
the plans are.
Yeah, she's off right now. I'm not gonna bother her, but if she comes back, or when she does, it might depend on the timing of that, so. It might not even come up as a issue, but it's just one of those policies that's there that we might have to figure out how to use.
Just put on the
What about
last
72?
100 and they need to use the
Okay, well,
big glass of lemonade. If it's gonna be a little longer, I can wait.
well, I was
Another
gonna
hour.
wrap it up in 10. I'm gonna wrap it up at.
All right, that's good.
Is that
I
okay?
didn't want to stay here for another hour.
Because 6.2 was the other.
So, okay, so just more detail in the salary increases part, like we discussed in different conversations we had, and then I removed number 7 and just put that in there with overtime, compensatory time on 6.11. Because you can make a decision on 24. It's up to the board on whether 24 hours is gonna be what you want to do to pay out. You have to make a decision on that. State law says that you can go up to 240 hours technically, but it's all up, the board can make a decision on how much they're gonna allow.
What are we at right now, though?
24.
Hours. Was this part of the?
6.2.
It has scheduled.
So I just moved, like I said, number 7 got moved into number 6.11. So under 6.2 classification, I took 7 out and put it under overtime and compensatory time.
Oh, I got it. Okay, you moved that part.
Yep, just to
Yeah,
get more detail,
6.11.
so.
Okay.
Like that she moves the computer to the,
Oh,
and then go ahead and hit that, again.
I guess in terms of budgeting, which I,
it's just blinking green here.
Yeah, it's.
We're not recording.
Wow, this is your time. You can go use the restroom.
Yeah, you might as well.
Take your time.
I didn't want to wrap it up.
Oh, dear.
Oh, they probably shut off at 8.
Yeah, probably.
I wish she was over here.
I'm.
Right to use.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the Jackson. Not Jackson, or yeah, it is Jackson, sorry. It's got a timer on it right now.
Way past bedtime.
It's probably shut off at 8
Which one you
o'clock.
want?
I think it
Yeah.
has, it must have a backup sensor.
No,
It's probably what it is, it's probably backing up. And because we never.
Oh, at
hear this
night it
late,
backs up.
I'm
Probably,
practicing
yeah.
to watch the Michigan basketball.
A lot of
A lot of systems will have that set up, even like our main servers will have
At a certain time.
at a certain time where it goes just rebooting so that it can run all of its backups.
Oh,
it's
there they
on.
are.
Put your damn-
No, I'm just rebooting it right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is
Gotta make them stay.
It's green there. So it's maybe like 10 or something. Oh God, please no. No. Okay, but that much.
Mary, do you want
Please
to
don't
adjourn
have 7 o'clock.
on the 27th?
We can.
Because you know, we probably could do 10.
Oh, please no.
I know.
Tired.
Judge Green.
If
runs
that
late
goes to
hours.
10, then that means it's an option, we could till 10. If we're here till 10, I'm sleeping at someone's house. I already don't want to know what the rules are on sort of timer.
Things can be looked at a little bit more.
Yeah, just.
I sent it to Jesse.
Okay, by the time I get
I
home.
don't even know
wait,
how- I don't even know when
yeah.
it shut off.
So we'd be picking up.
No, it
at
took me an
6
hour and a half
to get here.
I can tell when we get done with the recording.
I think it's a lot clearer.
Did you just now say it's shut the lights off or? did you-
No, I don't even know if I even looked at it.
Yeah, I
All of a
don't
sudden I
know.
looked at it, I'm like, it's not recording, and I looked up there and the lights were on.
Okay, so it's that right.
I know.
We're gonna- Yours is we-
Back in the day. I don't watch it. I'll never see it
Till
again.
6.2.
6.2.
We're gonna adjourn.
But Bob will be coming shortly, right?
Adjourn on.
Okay.
872.
I'll take a motion. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion we adjourn.
Support.
Support.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no.
What are we gonna do?
Motion.
25?
Lloyd,
Still tight.
and then